Awesome. Amazing.
So Liz,
Now
why
we
was
can
it amazing?
So I'm a very detail-oriented person, and so the fact that he went through exactly how to figure out which posts do the best and like get the best results, like to me was just fantastic. Rather than just be like, make a great post and put it out there, be like, try the same quote on 2 different backgrounds, or try 2 different quotes on the same background and see which one gets better, like better engagement. And that's how you figure out like how to fine tune who your audience is. And like, it actually felt like it was helpful rather than just make these posts for people.
Yeah, it definitely is helpful. Like there was a lot of really good information in this. And I feel like if we have hired somebody or we have an employee doing our social media, I feel like they absolutely should have to read this.
Yeah, I would agree. I get challenged by some of these books, right? It kind of reminds me of like a Hal Elrod book, The Miracle Morning. I'm a big Hal Elrod fan, and yet his books, I give them like a C or a D, primarily because this is only my perspective. There's a lot of words and a lot of fluff to get to a point that could be done in like a chapter or 2. And you start to kind of lose me there. And this was one of those books where I thought the content was amazing. Like the overall book, I was like, it's okay. And yet I think the practical applications and like what Liz was saying, the detail at which they go in on how to test those were really, really good. Like you could pull something away and be like, great, here's a model, which is what we always want, right? We want to take away a model, and then you can apply that model to a part of your business or leverage it, like Paula said, and be like, okay, how does this model work? Who's going to handle it, and who can apply it to the business? And I thought that part was really good. And he gives us a model within the first 2 chapters, really, about how to test that.
Yeah.
Which was really good. So, and again, because I accidentally forgot my book and going off memory, I don't want to mess this up. Liz, do you remember the very first model that he gave us, basically the rhythm of making those posts, since you liked it? Or anyone can jump in.
I'm sorry, I missed like the first half of that question.
Do you remember the first model that he discusses within like the first chapter? It was around posting.
No, not off the top of my head. I mean, let's see here.
He said the hypothesize, test, and then pivot. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
I am.
So hypothesize, quickly identify a hypothesis of a format, story, or theme that engages audiences around a specific message. Then test, produce a low-cost proof of the concept or message that can be tested and validated, and learn everything you can about what does and doesn't work from the results. And then pivot, if the hypothesis is proved correct, invest in it further. If it's disproved, quickly repeat the process again with a new format, story, or theme.
Yeah, an amazing model. And when I read that, what I thought about is all of our businesses. And knowing what we all experienced, when did we literally run this model? All of us, this year. Someone jump in and help me. When did we run this exact model this year?
COVID time, at the era of COVID.
Right? Which was what, like kind of March, April, I think everyone really started feeling it. I mean, across all of the US, I'd say March, April, maybe we really started to feel it. And what did we all do with this new virtual open house and tours? Like we did exactly that, right? Everyone had a hypothesis. We kind of went through like, we believe this is the way that it should work. We tested it. We went through and then we pivoted a lot, because a lot of what we did at the beginning did not work, right? Because we had either the hypothesis was just a little off, or it didn't really get into the audience that like we wanted to. It didn't generate the results we were looking for. So then we ended up pivoting until we kind of got in a rhythm of what was working.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with this book. This is so good. I'm sorry I've had like a crazy afternoon. I'm just not eating.
Megan is not obsessed with.
Yes, we did do one I was not obsessed with. I was like totally silent most of that call. I'll let y'all like think on that. Which book was that? Okay.
I know, I'm like, what book was that one?
Yeah, you got to tell us now. I mean, the audience is silence. We got to get them engaged and wake up. So, I mean, tell us the story. I'm trying to think. What book was it?
Oh, before I do that, Benjamin, I totally had a dream last night that you were dog sitting for me, but it was a dog that I had that died like 10 years ago. I don't know what that's about. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reverse prophetic, I guess. Yeah.
Trusted with a dog that doesn't exist anymore. Stick with real estate.
Okay.
You know you're having an impact on your coach when she has a stress dream about you.
It wasn't a stress dream. I like trusted you with my most favorite dog.
Wow.
Who shows up in my dreams all the time. I also don't know what that says about me either, but we'll leave that at that. Okay, I want to just jump in on this on page 27. I loved this. First of all, I'm definitely going to reread the first six chapters because every chapter has 5 or 6 models that you could choose any one. Like you don't have to get a million. Like if that's not your thing, like pull out one model out of here and just start there. But on page 27, he asks like the foundational question, how much money do I have to invest? So like scroll your eyes down towards the bottom. Looking at return on investment, ROI, is the most fundamental and important thing people forget when talking about marketing, business, and advertising. How much money did you spend and how much money did you get out of that investment? That's the only relevant question to ask. And sometimes what you get out of it isn't a dollar amount. Sometimes it's the credibility or the boost that having high social numbers and engagement can give you. He talks about movie stars, etc. Return on investment may come in the form of getting a TV job, into film, modeling, contractor, record dealer, or investor for your startup, but you need to ask yourself how much of those connections are worth to you. What is the outcome you're looking for, and what amount of money or time are you willing to put into getting those results? Like begin with the end in mind. Your marketing hat that you put on or person you employ, their metric, right, like in their 411, should be the return on investment from your lead generation model. And if it's social media, which this book is about, or anything, I think that is like a great foundational point that he makes so early on. I was so proud, page 27. He then goes into, like, my mind was blown, y'all. I like social media books. I was not excited about this one because it's always like, create interesting content. And I'm like, son of a, like, what does that mean? I don't even understand that language. Then he launches straight into it. Number 1, driving down the cost or acquisition of a follower. And he goes into practical applications. Stick with the Facebook bid amount. He literally tells you when to launch it at midnight. He tells you how many cents. So this is pages 27 through 37. 38. How many cents is a good return? So 50 cents per share, you're doing all right. Anything above that, cut it, like it's not resonating. Anywhere below a CPS of 30 cents means you've got great content, and CPS of 10 cents is rock star status, let it run. So those 10 pages alone, 27 through 37, if you've got the book, even if you haven't read it, go read just those 10 pages because they're intense. It is like an intense strategy for how to actually take a piece of content and know, is it good content or not, in an actual quantifiable way. My mind was totally blown. I was like, wow, there's a metric for that? How about that? Here they are. So a great, like, probably I think the most compelling 10 pages really in the whole book, and that's saying a lot because there was a lot of good content here, but most compelling 10 pages as far as a repeatable system for social media marketing. And again, the content, I don't know if y'all caught that. I'm sure y'all talked about it, but he'll be like, and then I did it 10,000 times. Like, it's no big deal. I'm like, who are you? And he's like, I changed the color blue. I changed the font. I did one version blue, 10 different fonts. I did one version red, 10 different fonts. And that's how he gets to like 10,000 because he's not doing anything crazy with it. But he's not just saying good content. It's pages 27 through 38. So 11 pages, my bad. He's not just saying good content. He's saying, like, who cares? Like, you don't know what good content is. Like, they put a dog on a surfboard and then they changed, is it a big wave? Is it a little wave? Like, they're letting people decide what's good content by doing so many iterations. And then he even tells you how to do dark posts so that not everyone sees your 10 posts. Like, everyone sees just one of your 10,000 iterations. Super jazzed about that.
I agree. Really, really good. I was telling the group before you logged on, I said, like most, this was one of those books I put in my Hal Elrod thing where I don't like all the fluff, but I like the actual principles and models that you walk away with when you get it. And I thought this book did a good job of doing that in the pages, like giving you some things you could take away and apply immediately to your business fairly quickly. The other underlying thing, and I would love to hear the groups or even your, Megan, if you're really into it,
So
would love to hear your opinion about it. I took at a higher level, how can we build community within our database using this knowledge that the book's given us? Because I think there's a lot you can take away from that and actually apply it and get engagement.
I have some thoughts, but I'll go last because I get so excited.
Last might be the new first.
No, Liz was super stoked about this book. I know she has something to say. Like, her marketer had to buy their own copy because she was like, couldn't wait to get her hands on it after Liz raved about it so much. Liz, what you got for us?
Sure. Well, I said before you got on that I just love the scientific approach to it about like test everything. And then the other, like, yeah, my marketer she did buy her own copy of the book because I was like, I can't give it to you yet, and she just couldn't wait to get it. I'm flipping through trying to remember some of it. The other thing that I really liked is he talked about how sometimes your key audience isn't who you think your key audience is or who you're trying to sell to. Like they were trying to sell to, I think, like moms or something like that. However, they found that if they actually targeted like younger women, the younger women would share it with their moms. And so just thinking too, like, is there a way that we can do that, like utilize that to high effect? So, you know, if we're looking for older people who are wanting to, you know, sell their homes, can we somehow target like their children who are going to be the ones who are actually going to be helping them with the sale of their house?
That's so good. I hope y'all wrote that down. And then he tells you how to do that, because you might be thinking, how do I know? And he tells you, how do you know who your target audience is? You test it 10,000 times, by the way. It's the short answer. So good, Liz. Can't wait to see what Natalie does with that.
I know. It'll all depend on how much budget Pete gives her.
Well, and Paula had brought that up at the beginning of the call of how much, like, in her own business, had we known about this book or had it, like, that's the game plan for your marketing. Like, hey, what training? Here, read this in the first 30 days. I mean, like, that would be a game changer for a lot of us.
Yeah, where's Cameron? He's not on this call. I got to text him that. He's hiring his first marketer. This is the first 30 days. So good.
And I know our market center, we qualified somehow, you know, inviting a number of guests to a mega camp, and you got to be in like Gary's big mastermind he did yesterday, and he had this author speaking to that group in the market center, because I popped in and Carrie was telling me about it, and I was, you know, sat and watched him talk for about 10 minutes. I was like, is this sure sounds like, you know, the 10 million followers book? And she was like, that's it. So anyway, she was taking notes. Yeah, so it's making its way around Keller Williams pretty quick, but mine's supposed to arrive tomorrow.
You're gonna love it.
Pretty quick. Yeah, I'm excited.
Write down page 104. Like, page 104 for Zach's question is the page like I instantly thought of when he asked that. And it says, about a little more than halfway down, it says, it says a lot of amazing things, but the part that I think is relevant to what Zach says, it says, give your fans value and then also an opportunity to offer value to their friends. So substitute fans with database, give your database value, and then also an opportunity to offer value to their friends. If you give them funny content to share, they get to feel like comedians. If you provide them with emotional content, they have the opportunity to touch someone's heart. Other people feel like they're offering value and they educate others on an important topic. That might be key for our own databases. Or they feel like part of a community when they have strong opinions about an issue or a person. So give content that's, your people would want to then give because it makes them feel valuable. So when you give them interesting or important content, even about home ownership, that they can then share. And I wrote down my notes there, like make it from their perspective. So instead of saying, the bold real estate team, because I'm looking at Zach, the bold real estate team's, happy to tell you about the market right now, make it something that if they reshared it, it's in their voice so that it's actually shareable piece of content, because people are less likely to share what the bold real estate team says versus what I say. So make the subject of the sentence a shareable subject, like I. And then give that to your database so that they get to be the comedian, they get to be the important statistics figure guy, they get to be the person with the emotional content.
Just so you guys know too, the author actually has put out a second book, or I don't know, maybe it came out first, called Hook Point too. So.
Yeah, I actually got that next on my reading list, and you're right. I don't know what order it came from, and I've heard it has some good things said about it as well.
Yeah, our marketing person bought both. So.
I think one of the big things in this book, when you think about our community too, or even specifically Facebook and our business pages, I think there's a lot of notions on the marketing team that we're only doing like 2 posts a week or 3 posts a week, right? And this book really blows that out of the water when it talks about the way to do that. That was my big aha. Even on my former team, like the way we did our marketing was purposeful in what we thought, and yet the quantity wasn't there, right? When you look through it and you go, now reviewing and hearing what they said, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because it goes back to the hypothesis, test, and pivot. And if you're doing that at a high level, then programs like Hootsuite's one, I'm sure there's others, but where you can schedule posts now starts making a big difference. And if you're in Command's able to do that. Some other platforms might be able as well. But it made me think and reflect, like, how do you use that to your advantage as leverage now so that you're time blocking actually less through the week, but getting more accomplished and more content sent out, right? Either for the month or for the week to your database, to your community.
Yeah, so true. What did they say at Mega Camp? Like content is has a lifespan of about a day. 24 hours.
Yeah, that was when they were actually talking to Facebook.
Yeah.
And they were having that conversation. They said that.
Did y'all catch how he, and I promise I'll shut up because y'all probably have amazing things to say too, but did y'all catch how he did it for himself? How he did the 1 million followers, like what content he started with? Did anybody catch that? It was inspirational quotes other people said, because he wanted to grow his leadership as he wanted people to think of him as a thought leader, but he didn't really think he had like a lot of things that were interesting thought leader things to say. So he just grabbed other quotes, plain background, and then tested those literally like colors and fonts. That's how he did it. Like wow. If that's as far as you gotta go, like he points out that he wanted people to see him as a thought leader, so he played around with like dog jokes or something, dog something, I forget, because people love dogs, I guess. But then eventually he was like, no, I really want my followers to think of me as a thought leader. And so he went in on just inspirational quotes other people said. And that's so shareable that that's how he built the community, his 1 million followers. Like that blew my mind too. Because how many times have you had somebody say like, has to be compelling content, or like you have to think of something viral like the Shave Club video. Like you're not just gonna poof that out of your brain tomorrow, but you could totally pull some sort of a famous quote, throw it on a black background, a blue background, a red background, 10,000 shades of each, and like send that out and see what works. Incredible. Like that's incredible.
Well, and the book brings up a good point. Like you just said, you don't see how many of like the Shave Club ones did not work.
Yeah, it's true.
You only see the one that was successful, and that tends to be the only one that matters, right? The rest probably lasted the statistic we got, which was the one day, no one's seen it, moved on.
Totally true. And you think about it, it's like he's all in on the one thing. Like how many times do we think we have to have this variety of things? But actually, if you go all in on like one arena that you want people to know you for, that might be the more successful route versus a little bit of everything.
I have a question, and I haven't read the book. I started it. When it comes to having like a social media account for a more like hyper local company, like a local real estate company, versus him who's just, and it's not a limiting belief, it's how do you take this and apply it to selling real estate locally, unless you're trying to get 10,000 followers or whatever on Instagram, so you can go to your clients and say, we have 10,000 followers because we post really general exciting content that 10,000 people across America enjoy. How do you, instead, if you just want to engage 1,000 people locally really well, how do you, like, what the thought process I keep having is, what are we going to do that's going to engage people in our area? Like one thing that doesn't seem like that many people care about it, like we do a Monday quote. Julia does all our social media, my sister, and it's really well done, but like I don't know if people really care. I'm sure it makes an impact, but like what stuff that we should be doing more of? Because to me, it's like the hypothesis part is the hardest part. Like once you come up with a hypothesis, test and pivot is just executing that. To me, where I get kind of hung up is like, okay, well, there's a million things we could do, and try not to get hung up on just going viral or whatever. Yeah, I know Megan's laughing at me because she knows. So that's my question.
Paula, jump in. We haven't heard from you.
There's a reason you haven't heard from me. I struggled with this one too, because they start talking, I mean, they're going internationally on this book, and it's all about followers. And I had the same thought as Benjamin, as we're looking at being hyper localized, does it make sense to go out and get these big audiences? And will our smaller audiences pay attention if the bigger audience are paying attention?
Anybody remember where he kind of talks about that, like the local audience issue? It's like 2 sentences, or I would find it because it's like, I don't even remember where it was, but basically he says this will work in any arena, right? So if your arena is your state or your town, like the same system will work. Like maybe you're not going for the nation, which is his arena, and then he talks about, I think in chapter 7, like how to take it to the world, but like pick your arena and then go. And then you said something interesting, Benjamin, because you said like, how do you get to the hypothesis? But you also said Juliet posts something. So the post is the hypothesis, right? Like,
Yeah,
like
the question I'm asking is like, I mean, we probably need to test and pivot more on the stuff we already do. I would assume, but that's not where I'm getting hung up. What I'm getting hung up on is like, okay, we want to post more. You know, we do just listed, just sold. We do Monday motivation, whatever. We do tips, etc. Like, what is some stuff that would actually get? Because like posting houses that you've listed in like cute houses is awesome, but like, let's do something new. Let's do something that people actually care about is kind of my thought. And so, okay, so what is that? You know, the stuff that I told Juliet this, the stuff that I'll make a video or I'll do whatever and be like, this is going to go viral in our world of viral, you know, 1,000, not 10 million, and just flops. And then something else I'll just put out is like, goes crazy and you're just like, what? Like, why do people care about that? And what I said from that is, okay, we just need to make more stuff, because obviously like hypothesizing doesn't work when I do it. So let's just make everything. And then, you know, when it hits, and when it doesn't, whatever, you know.
And yet what you did was test. So now you know what's working and what's not working. So how do you repeat what's working?
That's the question right there. And why is it work? Like figuring out why it worked. What caused this one thing for people to love, and what caused, you know, why did no one care about this thing that we put so much effort into?
Well, and actually, we don't know yet, right? Like we haven't done enough of the testing. Like now imagine you took those two and you created 500 iterations of each instead of 10,000, because, you know, who are these people?
Right.
You get to 10,000 in my head, but let's assume you did 500 of each, and then it became clear which ones performed more. You could look at like, what are the common denominators? Like what makes people love that? How many shares? Because he also talks about likes being a vanity metric. Like likes are nice, but they're kind of just a vanity metric. It's how many shares did you get? So he talks about like if you have less likes, a post has less likes but more shares than a post has a lot of likes but no shares. Actually, the shares is the more valuable piece of content. So even trying that, I mean, like every time y'all put one of those waterfront properties up, I'm like, I should probably move to Maine and like buy that house or something. Like I've never been there, y'all. Like like you're a photographer and you live in this beautiful place. Like what if you put up 10 photos of the countryside and then tested, you know, captions and then colors and filters to see what performed well? I think there's, I don't know, like there's literally 10,000 iterations you could do on the test phase, which is
Well, and I think sometimes we add that creative piece in instead of sticking with just a simple model. And if you think about like what Paula said, and I'm listening to that, we said, well, we hypothesized, I thought this was going to be viral. It didn't, right? This did though. Then the thought process is, to me, this is only my perspective, shouldn't be, what do I want? It should be, we should do that again. And we should do that 2 different ways, which is what Megan's saying, right? Like, or do it 3 different ways with different colors. Or if Monday motivation is working, then what would it look like if we did Monday motivation with 3 different colors, backgrounds, different fonts within the days or at night? Not that that's the thing you pick on, but if you think about listing sold, doing that 3 different ways, that could be impactful. That could reach people differently depending on what that combination and the way you present that information. So I think it's frequency and intensity, which is something Jason Abrams talks about quite a bit, which, by the way, comes from the MREA. People just skip over it, but it's in the lead generation model, and it talks about the way it's frequency, right, based on that, and the intensity at which you do it, which is all this book is saying when it comes to the test. So in a way, the hypothesis where you're getting hung up on, I would look at that and be like, you actually did hypothesize and you got the answer. May not have been the answer you wanted, but it was an answer. Right? And then the second thought I have around that is, and I may be wrong here, my thought is, why wouldn't you want to go national?
So before we go there for a minute, Zach, Phil had something to
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'll speak to the why not national. We're a relocation destination, especially right now. So we love national. So that's not a concern here. But Ben or Benjamin, to your point, I thought a fun fact: the two posts that have had the most shares, to Megan's point, that we've had. One is when we repainted the water tower. We debated on even putting that out there, right? Like, who cares about that? Repainting the water tower. Apparently that's a big deal. And then the other one was showing a house. They had a fridge or a stove from the 60s in there that was pastel blue, 60s stove. And just a fun photo, guess what age the stove is. And that was the other one that got the most. And both of those were like, I don't know if we should even share this thing. It wasn't in the core. It wasn't in our mapped out plan at all.
Yeah, I think that you're all touching on the same thing, which is you can hypothesize as much as you want, but the test results are what matter. And that was my thing, is like, okay, maybe I should put a lot less effort in my hypothesis and a lot more effort into, I wrote down, stop being creative. Like, create, but stop being creative. Like Megan said, you can go take pictures of whatever. It's like, okay, I spend all this time like, well, what am I going to do here? Or what am I going to do there? It's like, who cares? Just take like 10,000 photos and put them up, and, like, stop trying to be an artist and just make it happen. I think that's kind of holding me back. So this is really good for me.
Yeah, in this case, quantity is better than quality.
It's so interesting because marketing, we've always been told, is quality, right? It's quality, it's quality, it's quality. And then all of a sudden we're in this world where it's not about quality anymore. It's about being authentic and being who you are, and who cares what it looks like. And it's like the rules have totally changed.
Benjamin actually is an artist though, so it's like legit hard because he's
That's really hard.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about what gets shared on Facebook the most, at least to me, it seems like it's memes. And memes, the quality is never good.
Yeah.
But another thing I was wanting to share, so my sister actually owns a local boutique here in Little Rock, and she has been doing this like What's New Wednesday. So it's like new branding, new clothing materials that are new, and she launches it all on Wednesday. It has gone viral, and her business has exploded through COVID because they've had to do so much more social media. So I've talked to her, and we pick each other's brains quite a bit about branding and social media. And she's completely like built this model around, at 9:30, she pre-records, all these videos for the day, about 10 or 15 outfits. And then she launches them, and everybody, like all my friends, like, oh yeah, I have my alarm set on my phone to watch your sister at 9:30 every Wednesday on Instagram stories. And she saves them, and like, she's tripled her amount of sales she used to do during normal times back on Saturdays. And so then it's just like, okay, it's her consistency. And then she's built, like, in her store, they post every single hour on Instagram, like stories, I think 3 stories of an hour during business hours and 1 post per hour during business hours, and then like 1 or 2 at night. So they hit Instagram heavy, and they've got, 20, 30,000 followers, and it's just exploded just within, like, since COVID. They've just built a model, and she's got kind of like a calendar, and it's all, lined out for her employees, what to follow. If she goes out of town, they know exactly what to post at what time, and just the consistency of it. And they do so many sales. I mean, she opened up an online store just to help with that. So I think the consistency of the daily schedule, and the weekly, and so people then expect, these are the kind of content that's getting out there. And that's helped me with real estate, building a social media calendar for us. So
that's incredible. That's incredible.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that little bit. Consistency works.
When she started doing that, how quickly did she see traction? Was it like the first time?
It took a little while. It definitely took a little while to get it. And she was like, oh my God, I feel so stupid. And like, she completely messed up yesterday on it, and it was pretty funny. And she's like, okay, I'm just gonna get off here and you'll see me on the next slide. Like, but people like loved it because it's real and authentic. And like, I did a walkthrough because I did a realtor open house on Tuesday, and I said cute like 15 times in a row. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get off here and stop saying cute. And like, I had so many people that are like, oh, I love that you didn't edit that. And like, it was real, true to yourself, and like authentic. I just heard it back and commented on that. But I mean, yeah, it took her, my sister, a while for her to build up a following, but she just kind of stuck with it. And I mean, it's huge. It sells out within 30 seconds, like usually everything she posts. Like, it's insane. So
That's crazy. And you're touching on a big point, because back to Mega Camp, the Facebook representative said 800 million daily watches of live streams between Facebook and Instagram. 800 million.
yeah, crazy. So I think that, I mean, even the consistency for our team, like doing a Facebook Live, you know, our agents, and we're going to start putting in some videos and really mapping out a better social media plan. And especially after I read this book, you know, mapping out what that kind of looks like and get the consistency plan and start implementing that is the goal.
I didn't read the book, but kind of going off what Hannah and Zach are talking about with going live and such, how much does he talk in this about algorithms and, you know, what Facebook or Instagram are doing? Like, I mean, what they're doing right now with live and stuff to push it to the top, or how the algorithm is changing to push stuff to the top. It's just like, it used to just be, you know, it came through as it came through. And if someone posted it 5 hours ago, it was above someone that posted it 2 days ago. But now that's not the case. And does he go into that much, or is that kind of, this is like more broad strategy?
Well, his strategies are based, and Megan can talk about it, his strategies are based off the algorithm, specifically around Facebook. He talks about a lot because of the way it works. So,
He doesn't go into like that level of detail though, Benjamin. My guess is that's intentional, since it's like they change it at any time, you know?
Right.
So it's more of like the kind of foundational piece of Facebook advertising than the like how to hack it. It really doesn't talk about that much at all.
Got it. Just curious.
Hey, Ben, I have somewhere on Instagram and I got to find it, but I did see where like a blogger or an influencer or whatever they're called, posted like how to gain more followers and then to be number one to show up on your followers page. And it's like, I remember looking at it because it was like the saved on Instagram, how you can save a post, you know, put it into an album or something. That was like top number one. And then it goes to like reposting. So then posting like, I don't know, an affirmation onto your story. That was another huge one. So it's value, you know, because I'm only going to post that if it's good value or really cute and funny.
Right.
I'll post somebody or save it into an album, you know. So that was the first two. And that, you know, comment and liking weren't very high on the list whatsoever on Instagram as of today. Like this was this week I saw. But it had the stats and the numbers, and I'll try to find it. I thought I saved it, but I'll try to find it, and I can send it to Megan.
Yeah, my sister is doing a course. I'll have to ask her about the course so I can share it. I'll text it in the chat if I hear back from her before. I think it's paid, but she's doing a course right now, and it's talking a lot about the updated algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if he mentioned it, and it makes sense that he wouldn't, because it's a, you know, stands its place and when it was released. So I'll ask her about that course real quick.
Yeah, she'd love this book, Julian.
I think it's worth mentioning too that we want to be prospecting based, marketing enhanced, right? So it's a little bit different. He's looking for total followers. And in some cases, he had mentioned he had worked with people specifically for sales, but it was more about adding to the community and getting that out there, which we want. So this marketing that we're looking at, again, yes, the algorithm is important, but I think it's the frequency and intensity that he's discussing, because I definitely subscribe to the fact that market share is going to be equivalent to the mind share, right? And mind share is that market share. So if we can get in front of people more, like the bottom line is, unless I'm best friends with an agent, if Megan is in my news feed more often and I see her team's real estate name when I'm ready, the chances of me going to Megan instead of Kathy is awesome.
True. That's a great point.
And my friends who say, hey, Megan is showing up as much, is going to get the same perception as me. And I think that's the point to this as well, is why the shares are so important, because there's validity that even if I've never even worked with Megan, now though, if Paula's like, hey, Zach, you know a real estate agent? And all I see is Megan in my email and all I see is Megan on my Facebook, I'm going to say, you can call Megan, like try her team. I don't know, right? It's why Amazon was so successful. I'm telling you, like, you can price out some stuff. They're not always the cheapest, and yet it's the same principle. They show up in your mind all the time, which equals market share, because you just think like search on, I don't know, search on Amazon. I'm sure you can find it. That's what leads me to be like, ask like, why, what's wrong with going national? Not that you want to go after that, but what's wrong if you have 1 million followers? Like, what would that potentially hurt?
Yeah, I think the Amazon thing is a great analogy, and I think that having a national presence, I mean, even if you went and you bought 10,000 followers with, you know, some kind of bot follower company, that would be the wrong way to do it. But that would, I mean, you could say we have 10,000 followers on social media. You're in a listing presentation versus someone that, you know, all things equal, they don't have 10,000 followers and you do. Okay, like that's a win in your column for sure. And I don't think that having that is a bad thing at all. But if you have that, then, and you're posting about local stuff, you know, not just local listings, but, you know, Wiscasset town hall meeting is this week or whatever, it's like those people aren't going to be interested in that. So you kind of, then you've made your audience and now you're using that for a different purpose. So right now we're not there. So we either need to pick a direction and kind of stick with it.
That's a super good point, Benjamin. It's like if you build an audience, kind of like he talks about, he was building this thought leadership audience and then he'd like post a random dog video and it like there was a disconnect. So it's like you have to pick your arena and then play all in on that arena. So it's hard to cross the circles, I think.
I think it'll organically grow too, because if they're not interested in your content, you'll see that because they're not going to engage with it. So some people will fall off of that.
Yeah, I've done that a lot with my personal Instagram. I probably cut my active engagement in half by going after one segment of audience, and everyone else is like, bye-bye, which is, I mean, great. Okay. You're not going to get what you want here anyway, so I don't need to talk to you, and I'm going to talk louder to the people that are actually listening.
I appreciated that about this author actually, because he says like almost from page 1 that like creating 1 million followers is nothing if you don't intend to take care of them. And so he treats it almost like a database. It's a different kind of database, but he's like very loyal to this idea that once you've got people who follow you, like that is a community that you're obligated to take care of in the same way that we think about our database. So it is a great point. It's like, who should be in that community? And then how are you going to take care of them once they get there? So if you, you know, if you're constantly promising, like Benjamin's got so many different interests, like he's probably a bad example. Well, no, he's not. It's a perfect example. So if you're like constantly promising like cool videos of the amazing martial arts stuff that you do or the art that you do, and then every once in a while you like seagull them with, you know, please buy a home for sale or something, that's like an awkward transition. So it's like once you've got your database there, how do you properly care for them, like cultivate them to continue that audience? And maybe you need 3 or 4 audiences to address all of your interests, even potentially as a business entity, potentially, or as a personality, maybe is the better way to think about that.
Or find a way to combine them, like doing martial arts in the living room of every house you list.
I love that.
So you say that, and
There's
yet in
the
our
next
area,
hypothesis.
No, there's an agent that does that in our area. I don't know if Liz probably seen on Facebook. Guy, just depends because we're in the same kind of demographic or close. There's actually an agent that does that always shows working out and has quotes, and they do it in houses and push-ups and stuff. Comes across.
That's hilarious. Now, Benjamin,
I
you
haven't
could
actually
have
seen
some
that.
art in the background and you'd be all set.
Oh man.
Like the one realtor that had, like, she wore the big blow up dinosaur and she was in like 3 or 4 photos throughout the MLS, like as a surprise. But it was like consistency. It was hilarious. She'd be in the bathtub and then like all of a sudden like chilling on the back patio. So anyways, I thought that was awesome. It's like
We did have one listed here recently where like every other photo had either stormtroopers or Darth Vader in it.
It's weird, but you know, if it works, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're getting attention and, you know, views and, you know, more eyes on the property makes it sell. So, hey, do what works.
Yeah.
It's funny.
7 minutes left. What else do you guys want to talk about to wrap this book up?
One thing I thought of when we were talking about engaging with audiences, I heard someone was talking about social media talk about how they personally respond to like every comment that is made, like on any of their posts. And actually, I think they may be big enough that they have a team that does that. However, like just making sure that everyone who is in your audience feels heard, I think keeps people around too.
Agree. I think that's a great point. I'm just now sitting here realizing, y'all, that I don't think we set the agenda for November, Paula and Zach.